And those were a very interesting time, because there's time we would sleep even in the bush. It was carved out, and so when people started running, you knew where to which forests and where to enter. And I remember I was also an athlete, so when you hear something drop in the forest, you run, because those were birds. Birds, they would go and collect fish. So when they are feeding their chicks, it falls. So when I'm the fastest runner, that's the fish I would pick, and then would have protein, for lunch.
Wow.
So
your kind of work, you're bringing back the word smile on people's faces. And then I'm wondering, who writes the word smile on your face?
I mean,
how would you stay motivated?
That smile in their faces is it's a smile which comes back to you as well. So you smile together.
Well, the Leaders Podcast, People, Purpose and Progress, with me, Simon Chris Makanga. Well, before we dive into today's episode, I would like to remind you, if it's your very first time here, kindly go ahead and subscribe. But then I want to also remind you, why should you do that? One, I want to welcome you to the family of goal setters, a family of people who have given up on reading the book of Lamentation, and now they are interested in reading the book of Acts. People who want to lead others and show them a direction. These are people who have gone ahead. So it's the Leaders Podcast, the People, Purpose and Progress. Our special guest tonight is a friend, a mentor, and I've been finding it as a challenge that, okay, where do I start to have a conversation with somebody I already know, somebody who mentors me? But then, our special guest is Agnes Egoye. Many know you as somebody who's so passionate about anti-human trafficking. I've seen and read and covered a couple of stories that made you cry. And I think we'll start from there. It was Uganda police, the Monday press briefings. You presented a story of some journalists that covered the story, the one of the dailies. And you didn't like the picture that was brought out. That picture made you cry, and I was also touched. When I went back to the newsroom, I told my editor that we need to have an extra version of this story. So can we have Madam Agnes come live in the 9 bulletin? And that's how the friendship started. Okay. It's a pleasure to have you on the Leaders Podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I think people, just to make sure that people are curious now about that story and what would make a human being cry. I think, to me, because, journalism, I think 101, you're taught that when you're shooting or when you're talking about children who have gone through exploitation. And we are looking about, girls who are sexually exploited and they are children, carrying children, babies. And then you take a picture. After even our briefing, that, okay, yes, you want the story, but, you have to, don't show the faces.
You have to crop.
Yeah. And actually that time it was a back and forth. I'm like, you don't have to. And it's in the ethics, actually.
Why did you cry?
Because you're hurting children. Can you imagine those children? First of all, the children who are sexually exploited, and they are carrying also children. So you're hurting the two, mother and child. Okay, child and child. Okay, and they're going to grow up, and it comes with so many things. That's trauma the rest of their lives. And so by you putting their picture out there, you're re-traumatizing them, and you want to make them feel guilty. And for me, actually, I was like, okay, why would you parade children and take their pictures? What about the people who actually made them pregnant?
Madam Agnes, to be honest with you, you and I could have the same feeling about that incident. But some people just look at it and move on. They don't have the same mind of a journalist who did that. But I'm also curious to understand, what inspired you to start feeling like that? to start feeling sorry for such incidents?
Before I get into that, it's not just that the person who took that picture who does not feel, but the person who took that picture because it's not their child.
Who took the picture because it's
if
not
it
their
was
child.
their child, I don't think they would take that picture. It's like if you remember that picture, the journalist who took a picture of a vulture near a child.
Who was malnourished.
Yeah, you remember?
Yes.
Later he committed suicide. So because somebody asked him, because they asked him a question that what happened to that child. And then when he couldn't answer, then the other person said, I can tell you that there were 2 vultures on that day. One of them had a camera.
Wow, that's deep.
Because if it is your child with the vulture, definitely the first instinct, because it is your child.
To protect the image of that child.
So I think as human beings, we have to move away from, okay, this is my child. It's like how we grew up.
I think
like
that's the highest degree of selfishness.
Yeah, it takes a community to raise a child. So that when you look at somebody else's child, you should treat them the same way you'd want your child
to be treated.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's why it was very emotional for me, because I just couldn't, because it was just sad, because I was still connected to those children, and we are bringing them, remember, from Kenya. These are children who were exploited, and first of all convincing them to return home and to start a journey of rehabilitation. And then that's the first thing, because you've really assured them that home is safe, home is okay. Then all of a sudden you put their on the front page.
What a conversation we are going to have. Excuse me. Madam Agnes Egoye. Yes. Your story is really quite long. You've done quite a number of things, and you're still doing quite a number. Like I was saying before we came for this conversation, you have so many thank yous behind you. You're also the founder and chairman of Young Professional Mentorship Program, YPMP, where you're skilling young Ugandans, not only Ugandans, Africans in leadership. You're busy helping young girls who have been trafficked. But let's speak to that passion, Madam Agnes. Where do you get that inspiration, honestly speaking?
I think life is a journey. It's like somebody, when they ask you where you get inspiration to do certain things. Some things are in our childhood, some things are, as we grow. Because I remember, I don't know where you were during the Lord's Resistance Army, during the insurgency, because my family was among those families which had to run away, because we were in our home and definitely the rebels are coming, and then you have to run, and they're abducting girls especially, and they were really targeting virgins. And the yardstick that time in our village, because we were playing like how young children play, and when they came, the target was taking away girls who are not dressed in the traditional gomes. Because when you're dressed on the gomes, definitely your wife, somebody's wife, so that's the traditional dress for people. And so just seeing my cousin, sister being dragged off by the rebels, and I don't know what got into her brother's head, because the brother is the one who came forward and said, leave my wife alone, and her mother actually dressed her up. I don't know, somehow I think because they had had the rumor that they're looking for virgins. Yes. So because the gomas was oversized, so the rebels were like, no, this is a lie. And so the brother kept following her, no, leave my wife, leave my wife. So because there was a doubt
whether she's married,
whether she's
playing us again.
Because no one wants to take
somebody's wife.
No, a doubt where somebody may not actually be virgin, because they're targeting virgins. Yes. So they dragged her and left her. So when my father saw that, because at first he didn't want to run, he was like, this is my home. So when he saw that, then he realized, oh my goodness, he has 6 girls, beautiful girls. So that's when he decides we have to go, because my mother had refused to just go with the children and leave him behind. But later, I also saw the battle he had, because my grandfather was already like 100 years. And because he cannot run, so my father was caught between, do you run with your family? Do you leave your father behind? And so he decided to choose us in that moment. And then my father actually he climbed the mango tree, but he fell. And so they found him lying down in pain, and then they mocked him, beat him even further. And later, because we are displaced in a Catholic mission, so later when, they were not, so they went to trace my grandfather a couple of days after, and then they found him. So he got confined in a wheelchair, and later he died of his injuries. So when you grow up like that, then to understand that actually the abduction of girls and that's called trafficking. And then later, when I joined immigration service, I was working, at the borders, and I would see things like that, situations. So I got interested. So I get interested in the subject, made sure I learn more and more about it. Even my father studies in different universities around the world. I really concentrated mainly, because even when I was at University of Minnesota, my area of specialization was human trafficking, policy and prevention.
Was it intentional?
Yeah, that time, because you choose, because the Hubert Humphrey program under the U.S. Department of State, you actually, your applications, you tell them about the area you want to undertake. And so I chose human trafficking, policy and prevention.
I must commend you doing an amazing job. That's why you're receiving all these thank yous from left, right, and center. God is using you so mightily. Is there any story that you can speak of a little girl that story can never get out of your mind?
I mean,
that probably maybe it has shaped your values of who you are today.
Those are many, and I also want to encourage you, because right now I'm not doing work, with government. So there's a lot, which you can get even from the Prevention of Trafficking Persons, office. But there have been so many stories, I've got. I think one of the most is when one lady, I don't want to call her a girl, was trafficked for marriage.
For marriage?
Yes, and I had to work with her husband to try and bring her back.
Wait a minute, she was somebody's
wife.
And trafficked?
For marriage.
To another man?
Yeah, out of the country.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know where you were, because you used to cover those stories when I used to do media briefings every Monday.
Maybe I'll get to know about it.
Yes. So I had to work with this gentleman. First of all, you look at somebody who is broken, because a lot is going on in his mind. That, okay, my wife is somewhere, she's not safe. Possibly something has happened to her already. So, you have to work with him first to make sure that he's in a good state of mind. Mentally. So my interactions with him had even to have some counseling, some, you have to be brave, and we have to work with this, together. And so supporting him in the process. And I'm glad he really, come through the process. And of course, it took a lot of people's support because this girl was even in a country where we didn't have an embassy, so it needed to work with intelligence and things like that. I wouldn't get into details, but for me, I think that one, among many, because there's no story, and with even the survivors, I support, who are in my Young Professional Mentorship Program. There's one, she talks about it as well, but she actually told me when she thought she had cancer. I told her, who told you? Because, she was so exploited that even her back, she had pain, and chronic pain that had refused to go away for like 3 years. And so I remember that time I got a day off from work, and I went. I withdrew money. I remember I withdrew money from my bank account, and I made it my role. So I did my search, and I got her some doctors, and then I went there personally with her. So she was in for a while. So I waited outside. I was even in uniform outside, and it, there were cars like moving. And then she got she relieved, within that time, because they had to apply. So for the first time in her life in 3 years, she had not felt a situation where
she brought back the word smile on her face.
Yeah, with no pain. So she got out of that place running, crossed the road like
how does that
to hug me. I'm like, oh my God, I was even worried, and she was like, I've never felt any relief.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah, that's what those are the stories and the things that help you go on, because when as you deal with this work, you also have to take good care of yourself. That's why if you find people who are dealing with work like this, they need support.
And that's what I was also wanted to know, like your kind of work, you're bringing back the word smile on people's faces, and then I'm wondering, who writes the word smile on your face?
I mean,
how would you stay motivated?
That smile in their faces is it's a smile which comes back to you as well. So you smile together. And all that. So when you are in a field like this, I usually encourage people, not to tire. Some people don't want to get into it. They say, "Oh my goodness, it's too big." But it's those steps, one at a time.
How do you define kindness? How would you define kindness?
Kindness, I don't know. For me, actually. For me, it's a feeling. Even when I'm kind to you, I get the good feeling.
You feel it?
I feel it. So kindness to me is something that we both have to feel, because it rubs.
It has to be mutual.
It rubs into me. That's how I feel it. Because when you have a smile on your face, it also rubs into me. It's how you make the other person feel, then it rubs also onto you. It is two-way. No one should lie to you, because even you be unhappy one day, and like you're really depressed and all that, and then you go out of your way and you buy something and you give maybe a child, and they are so happy and excited, your mood will change.
Of course, it gives you some joy.
Yes,
it lifts you up.
Yeah, it lifts you up. So it is true. Don't get deceived that that person is kind. They also benefit.
But what drives you to say, okay, like
because
I said,
we are human beings.
When you look at
as a human being,
like that friend of yours that you helped with the back pain, I'm sure she might have had so many friends. Why did you think to say, now this person needs to meet a doctor?
Yeah, because for me, when you say you have cancer, you need to tell me the proof. But I also know that people who have gone through trauma and survived, there's so much that can come to your head. It's like before you get a diagnosis, definitely you'll also think that maybe it is cancer. Sometimes you may even go and Google. These days people Google a lot. You go and Google and you think, these symptoms match this, and yet it's actually not true. There are some people who even think that you have malaria, but actually maybe it's fatigue.
How would you describe your childhood, like neighborhood? How was it like?
Oh, it was fun, because my childhood has been in several places. My parents were elementary teachers, like primary teachers, and so we shifted in different places. But I've also lived in the village. They always say village life is better than town life, but village was really fun because there's a lot of playing. We didn't have like the video games and what. It was dodgeball. No wonder when the rebels came, they found us playing, the stones. And it was a very active childhood, and I really commend my parents. My dad, rest in peace.
Indeed.
Because they were teachers, so they taught us so much. They taught us much of the life lessons that were so instrumental later For example, they would divide us into groups with maybe other children. Then you compete, and either is it singing poems and all. Then you learn how to lose. Yeah, you lose and really cry. You learn how to lose. So
how has that shaped you today?
Yeah, because you don't sulk over certain things. It becomes easy. You take it. You learn how to lead. You learn how to speak, because a typical Christmas day for us when we were kids was segmented. My father and mother, for example, would sit, so they are your interviewers.
Okay.
So they ask you questions which are age specific. I remember you go there one by one, and then they ask you, okay, if a stranger comes home and you're alone at home, what do you do? What do you do? Then people would say, I close all the windows and doors. So they help you to learn how to do what? Problem solve. Yes. And I remember one Christmas, one of the activities they gave us to do was you write, who is a healthy child?
Who's a healthy child?
Yes, and you had to write a composition. And I remember my younger sister, she was a healthy child, is one who is fat and nice to look at. So that was specific to her. Yeah, nice to look at. So it shows you, those teachings. So they taught us, many things. So how to solve problems at home. They would ask you questions if you find your siblings, fighting. What do you do? Things like that. So those were the basics. And then they would give, presents, and sometimes even if you don't like the present you've been given, then you are unhappy, then you suck. So so that was good teaching. And they would save so much, and even expose, because exposure was also important to them. They would save like for a whole year just to take you a trip from eastern Uganda to travel to western Uganda,
to see what happens the other side of the country.
And you have to document as you travel. Seeing. Everybody, you have to have your pen and paper, because you have to you have to stand up to when you return back home.
What do you learn
after
from
days?
That,
yes, I mean it's like learning, how to document, exposure.
What would you tell your young 25 and 30?
I think you're on the right track. Because I think by time I don't want if you went a bit lower, because by that time I began this journey, even because you're talking about you're already living like university. I was so focused, because I'm also blessed that I had some parents. So if you go much lower, maybe that time. Because I remember even when we were displaced, and I remember sleeping outside on the compound, and those were a very interesting time, because there's time we would sleep even in the bush. It was carved out, and so when people started running, you knew where to which forests and where to enter. And I remember I was also an athlete, so when you hear something drop in the forest, you run, because those were birds. Birds, they would go and collect fish. So when they are feeding their chicks, it falls. So when I'm the fastest runner, that's the fish I would pick, and then would have protein, for lunch.
Wow.
So yes. So and they say
how old were you then?
I don't know, much younger, than those were.
So what would you change if you go to that age? Probably, let me say 18 and
yeah,
below.
that time I would just say that it's going to be okay, because those were uncertain moments, and you didn't know what next. Will I continue with my education? And then fortunately enough, later my father was moved, because they were teachers. They were transferred out of the district. That helped, because those were very uncertain times. So you'd say, because also coming to Kampala, during that time there was also teasing in school, because you're from the village school, things like that. So that younger self, I would say, it's going to be okay. Because definitely I was going through, so much. But
what's
at
life?
least I had.
What's life?
I was going to say life is what you make it. because that's a common a common saying. Yeah, life, for me, life is really about, you know, the journey, the steps, so when you walk on sand, what you leave behind, it's a trail. I see it as a trail, and it's also important that as a human being, what's your trail? So when you look back, what trail are you leaving behind? So it's not really about you. It's really not about you, because as a human being, even people who accumulate, it won't be enough.
It's never enough.
Like you know, like we see people who are fascinated with cars. You buy this car, it's a new model. The next day, it's another model.
How would you control that?
You buy.
It's more like
I'm just be content, because at the end of the day, you sleep on one bed, you eat that certain amount of food, and luckily for us, for Ugandans, the most healthy food is the cheapest. It's what you just throw seeds at. It's booger, it's vegetables. In other countries, those are the most expensive. But here, somebody can think that they are struggling because they don't eat meat every day. They only eat meat over Christmas, not knowing that actually it's a healthy. The only challenge is, like, you know, people from arid areas, but at least we are blessed, you know, as a country, that you know, people still say it's a place where you throw something and it germinates. So we still have. That's why during lockdown, you know, actually, you know, we tried. The only thing is that a lot of food was perishing because people could not go to the gardens and all that. But many people tried their best to grow certain. Those who had homes. But there's those also who struggled anyway during that time. It was real, like those who didn't have like the gardens and all that, you know. But a significant amount, people in villages and all that, at least they had some food. Wow. Yeah.
Let's go into our next segment. It's a rapid questions, and we always say that it's not a courtroom. Feel free to say pass. What's your guilty pleasure?
I'm not guilty with anything. Guilty pleasure. What kind of questions are those? The ones you talk in when you are hanging out with your colleagues. Guilty. Why would I be guilty with any pleasure then guilty? You know, I think I'm okay with everything.
You're okay with it?
Yeah. Even when I have my coffee, I'm not guilty. Yeah, with my coffee. I am not a sweet tooth though. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. You have just told us your story, how life was hard from before 18 or before the 20s, and then how you became so ambitious to change where you came from. Sometimes I also look at myself in that story because I'm working too hard to change where I come from. But are you blessed, or you're just working too hard or working too smart?
It's a combination. Blessings is not just a word. I don't believe in that, I'm blessed, so God bring me this and what. No, I believe that, you know, I've been given hands and all that. So I usually pray for the strength or the energy to do something, not to just be given. I can't pray that God let money just arrive. No. I'm a firm believer that I have to work for that money to come. So my prayers are not those kinds that open houses and then things just manna from heaven just pours. I pray, you know, for the energy, for what I'm working on to have fruit, but I must put in the work. That's why even the people in my mentorship program, it's about putting in the work. I'm not a believer of just pray and things just happen.
What was the best advice you've ever gotten from your late father?
Wow, that man was so brilliant. Many things. It's not just even one in life. So the best, you'd be amazed. Actually, he told us, his children, he told us, don't live next to each other. Like, don't be neighbors.
Why? with your siblings.
Don't stay that, as neighbors. Miss each other, Hey, I don't know what was in his mind then.
What did he mean?
But before, because he had an opportunity, because my dad died of cancer. So he had an opportunity to really speak to his children. And I was actually worried, because that time I was at Harvard, and I was worried that he might die before I come. So fortunately enough, he waited. So I arrived. I remember giving him his certificates because, this is for you. And one thing he asked of me, he told me to mentor one of my sisters. So these days I laugh. So when I'm talking, so I'm like, actually, that sister of mine is the one who should mentor me.
Why?
No, she's too brilliant. She's amazing. And so I don't know why my father was giving, I think because she's younger, but she's turned out really be amazing. I learned so much from her. So, and these days I tell her, I don't know what daddy was thinking, but I think it is you who should mentor me in certain areas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you short-tempered or even-tempered?
No, I'm not. I'm calm because I don't believe in. It depends on the situation, but I don't call it hot temper. There's no reason for me, to scream or to, because even if you said something which is offensive, sometimes I can just let it drop. So when you throw it at me, I just let it drop. It doesn't get to me. I can even just look at you.
How did you get there?
I think I realized it's there's no need. What's the benefit of it? Because if you come screaming and all that, and I keep it's an exchange match, then what? Yeah. So because I also know that behind the screams you're showing, there's an insecure person, there's a person with low self-esteem. I'm actually more interested in knowing what is this person struggling with. Because even when you're my boss and you came screaming, when I go back, I'm like, okay, what's making this person scream? How can I be of help to calm their nerves? Okay, if it is pressure of work and all that, it's not about me. They are not screaming at me. They are screaming because they have pressure. So that pressure is unleashing to me, but it's not about me. So you're like, okay, how do I help this one to be a better boss? Rather than like, oh, why did you scream at me and all that? Yes. Because your actions will be different and the relationship will change.
What's your definition of maturity?
Maturity, it's not age. Maturity is not about actually age. It's like, it depends on which area, workplace, being objective, taking things and taking other people as human beings. Because people are human beings after all. Because even when they do the things they do, you reflect and say, why do they do the things they are doing? And to stop judging, especially these days, even with young people, so many are going through mental health. How do I know this? Because I do a lot of one-on-ones, and they are really struggling. And the biggest people actually who struggle are boys, are young men. Because of how they've been socialized. Many of them, especially I've got this mainly from the word, but also there's things they've told me they've never told anyone ever. Even their parents, even their peers. So we deal with those things, because when I'm doing one-on-ones with you, because those are the things that are preventing them from coming, up. Yes. So some have deep-rooted things they think, that's secret. Some blame themselves for things they even shouldn't. Or some have had,
self-judgment.
Yeah, and not good relationships with their parents, or abandoning them. And then they also give up, on life. So getting them from that deep pit. Some can be a jolly fellow, and actually they are not. That's what also I realized.
So what do you think community and family should play in bringing out the best child?
I think it has to start early. You can't start being open to your child like when they have reached a certain stage, because you've lost certain years. So if you walk through the journey with them and you make it easier for them to speak with you, it is helpful. But I also know that some parents have participated in that, but it takes a village, like they say, because there are certain things whereby you need to be mindful of whom your children associating with, get to know their friends, be intentional, and get certain people in their lives who can mentor them into the people, because there are certain things at a certain point they may not want to discuss with you. However much you're a good parent, and there are certain easier. So, but be mindful. And also be open, and know who is in the lives, of your children, and not the way we were brought up, long ago is different from now. Children are brought up
and that's
with the social media, with everything, and they will even reach a point where they think they know it all, and all that. So sometimes, they may even think that you, the parent, you are old-fashioned. Yeah, but like be intentional on who is walking the journey with your child. Mentorship programs are very helpful, as well. Yeah.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't. In my life's journey, because sometimes when you're in a journey, you can reach a point. Because I laugh with my petties, because from that, we are busy. Then they realize they're even busier. Then they come to you. So, my goodness, madam, I have this opportunity and this opportunity. Now what do I do? Because you can't do it all. So for me, whenever there's a detour, I can't regret that. I wish I took the other journey, because there's just so much you can chew on. So I don't do that. I don't do regrets, because after all, life is a journey, and even along the journey, you can do something, and then you realize, oh my goodness, this is not working. Then you detour. So everything is not supposed to be straight. No. Life is like that. So I just look at it as I'm a human being. You can fall, then you can rise up. One day this is happening, another day something else. So regrets is just a wasted emotion. But as a human being, sometimes, oh my God, that comes in as a human being. But catch yourself. Then the regret is really a wasted emotion. Now regret, it's happened. Come on, move on. So what? Yeah.
Any memorable childhood moment that you will never forget?
It's a funny one. We used to be, my mom was very interesting. We used to imitate how people dance in the village. So typical day would be like dancing, behind the house. I remember, I don't know, that's one of the things that I've really picked up with our mom. So we'd imitate how people dance in the village. It was very interesting. We had really good childhood moments before the LRA, insurgency and all, because that time we lost everything. They took everything from our house and all that. It was very destabilizing, but before then it was really a very good childhood. Then I have my uncle, and then my parents, even when we came to town, even in training, they'll take you to the village, like my mother's side, like your grandparents. Then they leave you there for the whole holiday. Then you eat greens and you complain. Then you eat greens. Then you'd have your favorite grandma, you sleep with, then they would tell you stories, then you sit outside under the moon. They were really happy times.
You've had an answer to every question. Do you fear death?
Do I fear? No, because I know I'm going to die at some point, definitely. But it's like, okay, when I'm, it's the same question. For example, when I'm asked, because That time when I was on counter-trafficking, I was actually at the forefront, chasing and running after human traffickers, like literally. And then people were asking. Then I'm like, you know what? I don't want to die in my sleep. That's boring. I would rather die at the front line. So really, because if I start worrying about death and not doing the work I'm going to do, then what? Then who'll do it? Then it will rob me the opportunity, because when I do it and I look back, I'm like, wow, okay, this was worth it, because you want that challenge rather than not doing it at all, because you literally live a life of death, like you're dead, but living, but you've not met your purpose. It's like when you want to do something so bad and be involved in it, and then you're fearing death, but then you're really literally dead, because you're not achieving that purpose on earth. So you're just a walking corpse.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Agnes Egoye.
Agnes Egoye.
That she lived.
She lived.
She walked on this,
She left some trails.
She left, that sand, that she left some trails, and following others who supported her along the way, while others also are following her in the trail, and then the rest also follow, like that trail. Because
you're not dying. Because
that's how it goes. Yeah, that's how it goes. It's like when you intentionally plant a muvule tree. You know that the muvule tree, by the time it is mature, you'll have died. So it is not for you. So when you look at those trees which have taken years, which people plant, that's what it means. Yeah, it's like when people come to leadership or what, you're preparing for other generations. Like there are certain things we enjoy now which other generations have left for us. So don't be selfish. Don't be selfish and just move and just rely on what others have given unto you. It's like you moving around Uganda, like enjoying what people have paid taxes for, and then you refuse to work. Yes, because even whether you like it on the road, you're moving on the security or whatever it is, the education subsidized at some point. Somebody has contributed there. When you go abroad to study, those are fellowships, So I've been given so much. So and some of the things that I don't take, because I may not have the money, but like, when I mentor, it imparts, on others, because I've been given so much. So why should I die with it?
You remind me, and I've also come to notice this in life, that sometimes when you're chasing life, when you're too ambitious, you'll hear stories of people say, never give up, don't give up. Even when you go to meetings, you'll hear people say, don't give up, because they see you're going somewhere. But it's only until you look back and you're like, I think it's because I never gave up. It's because I had these sleepless nights. It's because I had to do something in the middle of me flying from this country to another destination, and I had to do another job in between. And you look back, I'm like, when people told me don't give up, it did make sense. Sometimes even when you get out of the meeting, you don't remember. You stick on your goal, chasing life. Do you feel like you have achieved whatever you are chasing?
There's still a lot, to be done. But like I've said, I've been given, so much. But I've also, really worked,
You look back and you're like...
Yeah, because the thing is, there's no one who has ever achieved anything that has not put in the work. Or not failed maybe at certain things. It's like finding you now well established. And people want to wear your suit, but they don't want to do the things that can buy that suit. And some people give up so easily. Some people give out so easily. And I think increasingly, I'll take you back, with the people I mentor. So, for example, if I get somebody like my Harvard classmate David from China, he had to learn English for a whole year before making the Harvard application.
Wow.
Then they say, what? Yeah, but he had to learn English. for the whole year, because
What a
you're planning
sacrifice.
to make an application.
What a sacrifice.
So when you see people like that, then you've heard of people who they've applied I don't know how many times, but for you want what somebody has, but you don't want the journey. You're impatient to go through the journey. And also to master something, it comes within the years. That's why when they call you an expert, it is an accumulation
Of different practices,
what
failures.
you've done, failures, understanding, reading. For you're calling yourself an expert in a year. You've just come out of university and you're saying expert. I'm not saying that you can be, because it's different from talent. Even talents, even talent is not enough. You've seen people with talent. You also have to work on your talent. If you're a good runner, you train.
True.
You've seen 100 meters and all that. You see somebody, they tell you the what, but
By the
if
time
you
they
don't
come
train,
to showcase.
they've also trained.
True.
So talent is not enough. So then there's also a beauty of looking back when you've gone through those challenges to achieve something. You look back, that's when you appreciate the journey more. Better. That's when you can even stand in front of people and speak about the journey. You've seen those people.
True.
They'll tell you that, we started like this, we started in a garage, we started to do this, and then this came out of this. This was the challenge along the way. I've not seen somebody, a successful person, who just comes and says, no wonder you look at people who inherit things they've not worked for. They get finished quickly. If they have not planned. If somebody, because if you have things, you even have to train your children on how to manage those things and run those things.
True.
But if you just accumulate them and say, here, you'll be shocked.
True. But do you have any question for me? Before we came for this conversation, you said you wanted to come and sit here so that you can interview me. Do you have any? I'm your friend. We've been friends, and you're my mentor. Do you have any question for me?
Yeah, okay. Give me a few things you've learned from me.
One,
that you're utilizing now in your life.
One, not every friend of yours is going to bail you out in a problem. Some friends are there to fetch wisdom. If I'm adding 1 + 1 in my thoughts and I'm getting 1 or 1.5, I'll go and fetch wisdom from Agnes. You're that person.
Okay, wow.
2, I've learned to be honest with myself and also other people. I've learned to understand the importance of time. The importance of my time and other people's time. I've got to learn from my friendship with you. And I've learned also one thing, to be honest to myself. Like, if I see you're happy, or if I see you're not happy, I'll be genuine to know, is everything okay? I've learned that from you. Because there are moments you've called me out of the blue, and you just want to know, are you okay? Am I okay? So if you ask most of my friends, when we meet, are you, like, how are you? I'm okay. Are you genuinely okay? Even on WhatsApp, I ask, are you genuinely okay? So I've also opened up this space where people call to blow their steam, I received them. So the seed is also germinating. Thank you so much.
Okay, wow.
So now you're going to look into this camera. You still have to share your wisdom. The lessons, especially those that you have learned from the different wisdoms you've consumed.
I think for everybody who is watching is that there's a reason you're in this earth. And we are all here to contribute, and we all matter. And wherever you are, it doesn't matter whether you've had what kind of education, or you're uneducated, or you don't speak English, or you don't speak. Because sometimes people think that English is even a word of intelligence. No. Wherever you are, there's something you can do, and you matter. And you still have a lot into your potential. And for the young people out there, please get yourself a mentor. There are so many people who have walked this earth earlier than us. There are certain lessons they have. There are even those ones younger, but they've had different experiences. and learn as much as possible from each other. And let's learn to be patient with one another. This world is too much, for all of us, and we all have what to contribute into it. And whatever you do, be that other person's either best friend, be a friend, and actually care. So many people are hurting, even among your own friends, even when they are smiling. Be intentional. Let's take care of each other. If you've had a lot in life, if you've had those opportunities like I've had, I won't lie, because so many people have invested in me, and so that's why it's also important that we pass this on, because at the end of the day, somebody will invest in you, but be the multiplier effect, on other people. And let's just be kind to one another.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. And that's what really makes you Madam Agnes Egoye, and that's who you are. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate this conversation, and I'm glad to be part of your journey. I'm glad that I'm the one that I don't know. Many will come and tell your story, and many have told your story, but I'm also glad to be part of your journey. Thank you so much for accepting me to be your mentee. Thank you so much for accepting and picking up the calls when I'm stranded. When I was setting up the studio, the podcast studio, you're the person I called. I'd painted it black, and I asked you, what can I put here? I had something in mind, but I didn't want to tell you. But you told me exactly what was in my mind, and I went on with that.
Okay.
Yes, and that's why your picture...
What did I tell you?
You told me to get pictures of people that actually, they're the people I like, my mentors, people that I learned from, and I put them in the background. Why?
Okay.
And that's how you also got yourself on the wall.
I was wondering what I had done to deserve
So it's something
that.
I also had in mind, so I just went on with that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you for the great work you're doing.
Thank God.
And for giving a platform for so many people to learn from. And you're a good example from people of your generation.
Appreciate.
Making a difference.
Appreciate.
Thank you.
Such comments, man. Thank you so much, friends. If you have come this far, thank you so much for being part of this conversation right from the genesis up to now that we are going to say bye-bye to you. But before I do that, I want to remind you that we believe in transforming followers into leaders and leaders to become agents of change through storytelling. So my job here was to tell Madam Agnes' story, and may you learn from that story to also be where she is and also become better than where she is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So may the good Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob be with you until we meet in another video. For now, it's a bye-bye.